Welcome to Caseback Watches, my name's Tim, and in this episode I'd like to go over some pieces we've seen at the Watches and Wonders fair last week. And I noticed that many watch channels focus more on Rolex and Tudor models, and this is a bit of a shame because there were so many very interesting pieces. I mean, the name of the fair is Watches and Wonders, and you could really see there's some wonders, and I will show you absolutely wonders in this episode. But don't be disappointed that not every piece I show you in the next minutes is totally in reach, because there are high-tier manufacturers, there are very expensive and very advanced watches. But I personally see this more like a fashion show. You know, those haute couture shows where you ask yourself, who can wear this? Who's supposed to wear that dress? And the answer is nobody, in fact, or very few people. But this fancy dress gives ideas and influences to the industry. And then next year or the following years, you can see some aspects of that craziness in a more normal environment. And then you see something absolutely crazy haute couture in your normal watch. And maybe more important, we are able to spot trends if we follow that fair, if we check out all those crazy models. We can spot trends, we can evolve a feeling for the future in watchmaking. And if you're a bit like me, then you are more an aficionado and not a sheer consumer. And so I think this is very interesting for you, or at least it can be very interesting for you. And so please follow me through the next minutes. I will not stress every aspect of every timepiece, okay? This would be a 3-hour video or something like that. I will just point out some interesting aspects which caught my attention and which I think they are very important and they're very interesting for the watch world in general. And now let's do it. Okay, let's begin our little tour here. Let's begin in alphabetic order with A. Lange. A. Lange presented here on the Watches and Wonders the moon phase dark blue gold flux dial. Relatively small watch with 37 millimeters is the case diameter, but I mean, this looks just big if you see the structure of the dial, if you see the ingredients, and if you see this glitter effect, which is gold stone. I've learned this. Gold stone is a type of glittering glass made in a low oxygen reducing atmosphere. It can take a smooth polish and can be carved into beads, figurines or watch dials, and it's not a natural material. So we have something really, really special and absolutely beautiful. And it makes the entire watch just shiny. I mean, look at the version here with diamonds. Even those stones, they look really integrated and serious. I've seldom seen something so coherent like this watch. Everything is in place, everything blends wonderfully into each other, and so I'm extremely stunned by this watch. By the way, white gold case, this makes the watch even more expensive, and the price for the version with diamonds is 54,000 euros. And so, yeah, as I said, this is not the watch to consume, it's the watch to display or to learn something. And you have here the first signs of the first trend. If you look at this, yeah, the color and the cosmic elements of the dial, so to speak. And our next watch is a bit similar. This is Arnold and Son, very old watch company, bonds to the early days of watchmaking for navigation purposes, and they presented the Luna Magna. It's close to the Lange one if you see the style and, let's say, genre. This looks a bit more ancient with those Roman numerals, but with the simple layout and the luxurious materials. At the same time, it looks, yeah, timeless. Timeless like a star. Gold case, 3D moon phase made of marble and glass. This is a very special feature I want to highlight here. This wonderful looking moon phase. And again, the piece is not really available. 28 pieces out there, 40k is the price, 40,000 euros. But maybe you see such a moon phase then in 1 or 2 years on another watch for, let's say, 2,000 or 3,000. And then you have such a wonderful piece on your wrist. And the trend I've spoken about with the Lange, here you see it, it's bigger context. They try to display the entire planet, our planet, the moon, stars. And we will speak about some other crazy things in this video. And they presented, by the way, another watch. Here you see the Globetrotter. Again, you see this big context with the entire world there. But this thing looks extremely outdated. I think willingly, because it's for another target audience, I could imagine, but looks extremely outdated. And if you compare those watches, I mean, the question, which one will be seen as a classic, as an icon in 50 years, is very easy to answer. It's not the Globetrotter. And then I saw a little surprise, for me at least, and this was Chronoswiss. Chronoswiss is one of those brands which are very connected to a certain design, a certain design language, a certain font, and it looked extremely old. I mean, if you see now a Chronoswiss from the 90s, then it looks completely outdated, and I think the market is very weak for them, and so the manufacturer has to find a way out of that. And here you see the Pink Panther. You see here typical Chronoswiss elements like the onion crown, those lugs, the bezel, the case form, but they really try to rescue it with some drastic decisions. And I cannot tell you if this is a good design or a bad design, very sorry, but I think it's a good way to try to try and attempt to break out of this old language. And so I think we can expect something special from Chronoswiss in the next years. The next watch comes from Greubel Forsy. I have no idea if this is the correct pronunciation, but here you see again big context. You see a 3D globe, you see a GMT function, but here it's a design made like designs by Elon Musk, for example, and not by an old Swiss company. Very modern, very futuristic, if you will. So very interesting to look at. And you see again, they want the big context. They want to deliver more than just time or chronograph or those complications we're used to see. And now let's go to the star of this video, and I think this is delivered by Jaeger-LeCoultre, and this is the Reverso Hybris. Reverso Hybris, I mean, this is a crazy watch, deserved an entire book, but let's try to give you an overview here. It's a relatively big tank. It's 51 by 31 millimeters. And the height is 15 millimeters. It comes with 4 dials and 11 complications. Perpetual calendar, minute repeater, indications of the synodic, draconic and animalistic cycles. So we're talking here about the moon, about moon phases. And it tells you time of the next supermoon, it tells you the time of the next eclipse. And it adds every 4 years, 29th day in February. And the moon phase needs a readjustment every 1111 years. God, I love this point. I absolutely love it. And no, it's not a computer. I mean, it's a manually wound mechanical watch with a regular beat rate at 28,800. And if you want to let it serviced, you have to bring in your house, I guess. Price for the thing is 1.6 million euros. And so smidgen, or let's say 1.8 million US dollars in that region. And here, of course, you see again the will to deliver something way beyond time, to set time really in the interstellar context, or not interstellar actually. This is, the sun is our star, but you know what I mean. They try to make it really big. They try to find the connections between Earth, Sun, Moon, and just put it in a watch. Next brand is Patek Philippe. I'm not so into Patek, but I've seen something I'd like to show you. This is a very tiny detail, but I think it's one of the most beautiful cases I've ever seen. This is a Nautilus reference 57111A. See this? Just wonderful. I mean, the problem with Genta designs is that they're rather ugly. But in the last decades, they really found improvements and ways to handle those rough edges and rough forms and drastic forms. And now look at this. I mean, I could even live with those baguette diamonds there, together with those wonderful micro forms here, the crown guards, the play between high polished and brushed surfaces. Just a lovely look. I really can imagine this thing on your wrist and then you're a happy man. And so if you want to do me a favor, then this watch could be it. And also interesting are here the dials. I mean, green, you can argue about green, but given the fact that many people like green, but what's with that structure here? Is this a good thing or not? To be honest, I have no idea. I've imagined this watch with a more simple dial, and I don't know if it would work. together with all those diamonds and the other ingredients, the other elements of the watch. Same thing with the white date wheel. People hate white date wheels, but you see that the date window here is very small, and this together with the green date wheel could be could it make very hard to read the date actually, and then you need a cyclop, and then you're next to Rolex, and of course they don't want this. And so there are, I think, places where dial structures, weird dial structures and small date windows and white date wheels make sense, and this is one of the cases. You God, I love this watch. I wanted to bring you here very neutral and cool analysis of those elements, but I just love the version with the diamonds here. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Now I'm in deep trouble, and so let's go to the next watch. In fact, more than one watch, because I'd like to speak about Rolex now. Many people were a bit disappointed, and they complained that this isn't really something new. And I cannot follow 100% because Rolex never was overly flashy, right? I mean, key strength of the brand is that they have only a few models recognizable over decades. And problem right now are the prices. They don't reflect anymore the, let's say the simple specs. You pay 8 grand for a watch and then it comes in a card box and it's a rather simple thing, and you think, no way this thing is worth 8,000 euros or US dollars. And well, it's a price not necessarily backed by the watch itself, but by marketing and hype. And I personally like those new dials, this structure and those colors. I mean, not for every day, but I find it pretty interesting to look at. The green leaves here, by the way, seem to be stolen from Swatch. The Swatch edition in cooperation with the Museum of Modern Art, but this, of course, is speculation. And I don't like the Explorer two-tone. I mean, the key element of this simple Explorer 36mm is the no bullshit approach. This is a reduced watch, reduced to the sheer metal, and now it looks like a construction worker with a Dolce & Gabbana handbag. And so some interesting aspects, but overall, Rolex is wanted and expensive, but it was never special, and this is not a problem, to be honest. And then a brand I cannot pronounce caught my attention with the Le Matinaux Sunray. This Trilobe, I don't know. But here you see very interesting dial, very interesting method to show time with 3 discs or rings. At the outer ring you can't see the hours, then minutes, then seconds. With some Baroque elements there, this flower-esque structure in the middle, and so very weird in a way. It looks modern and old at the same time. I don't know really if I like it, but it's interesting to look at, especially if you see it on this wrist shot here. I mean, this delivers so much. So many different angles, the light plays with the sunburst and the brushed rings, then this interesting crown, this nice leather strap, and so extremely interesting watch. And the last watch I want to show you is the Historique Américain 1921 by Vacheron Constantin. Plenty of versions there with precious metals and in two sizes, so I think it's not really reasonable to tell you the exact prices here. I just wanted to point out that it delivers something really special with character, really. Apparently it's inspired, or it follows a draft from 1921, and I have a weak spot for the 20s because those were the heydays for menswear, right? And there you find some very special items, and so like this watch. I mean, note the form, note the crooked dial or this angle, note the position of the crown. Doesn't look very secure, but of course this is not a watch for work. Those press images here, you see here the vintage car, and he repairs his vintage car with this 20,000 euros. I don't know, I've said it. Damn, 20,000 euro watch. Extremely clean hands, and so it makes absolutely no sense. But I like to, know that this watch is in existence, and it can be, an inspiration if you want to learn something about new case forms or new old case forms. And when you ever want to purchase such a watch with this type of case, then be careful, they were extremely big. So this watch comes in 36 and in 40 millimeters, and I think the 40 millimeter one is a monster. So I would go with the 36 millimeter version, but this will stay a dream with this price of 20,000 euros. Okay, welcome back, and you have to admit this was a bit crazy, right? This was a bit crazy. I'm wearing something completely different This is the Oris, my vintage Oris pointed date, and every time I see something crazy like in this video, I think it's so beautiful, it's so lovely, and it's not for sale. I just love it. Okay, and now we're at the end of this video. If you want to have sneak previews from time to time, then please follow me on Instagram. It's caseback_Tim. And now let me thank you very much for your attention, and until next time.